about flow metrics and Kanban, right? So now a couple of things before we start the webinar. This webinar is a bit text heavy, and because of the nature of the environment in which we work, where everything is being done online, the content is a bit textual, so you can keep a little attention to the screen. It is intentional, and this webinar is not about teaching you or certifying you on flow, and this is also not to tell you which framework you should adopt for flow, but this is more around understanding what is flow, how to get started on your flow journey, and what are some metrics that are suitable for certain situations. Like if you face a problem, like what metrics are tracked better, right? And this webinar is about 55 plus slides. I'm timing it around 50 minutes, maybe plus or minus 5 or 6 minutes here and there. So with that premise, let's get started on our journey. So what's our current understanding of flow, utilization versus flow metrics, and thoughts on metrics and reporting, and a couple of other topics that will jump in as we go along, right? So in a quick minute or two, right, let's talk about what is our understanding of flow. Let's go into a non-IT, non-software mechanisms, right? So what is our understanding of flow? So for example, we talk about flow in terms of a tap. Like there's water flowing in a tap, and we want to talk about this heavy flow of water and so on and so forth, right? And what do we do when we look at athletes performing on the field? We kind of look at them and we are jealous, right? They are in a state of flow, right? They flow. Their actions seem so smooth, so jitterless that you feel like, wow, that's very smooth. Flow, poetry is what we call it, right? So we've had a fairly good sense of what is flow very naturally, right? So in the outside world, we have this person called Mihaly Robert, who basically wrote the book called Flow, which is today very popular. We talk about it a lot, and he basically he recognized this psychological condition, and he called this as a concept of flow. He called it as a mental state. He said it's highly focused. And essentially, he calls it as being in the zone where you're high performing. Now, Mihaly's concept has in the past 25 years expanded into many domains. People talk about it in software. People talk about it in sports. People talk about it in business. So now that Mihaly's theory has become very popular, we now go a little bit deeper into okay. So that was flow, but again, what is flow? So flow means moving along in a steady continuous stream, but in the context of knowledge work and IT and software, what does flow mean, right? So being able to visualize and manage your flow is important to achieving faster and more consistent delivery. Now, these are big words put together, but how do you make it actionable? How do you get it into action? And that's what we'll focus on the next few slides in this webinar. Right, so visualization of work is basically every framework out there talks about this as as a very important dimension of flow. Basically, you need to visualize your work. But why is it important, right? So let's say in a discrete manufacturing system, such as there's a car or car manufacturing line or a factory that produces steel ingots. It's very easy to imagine it because the activities are all very discrete. There's a very specific set of activities done at every machine, and then when it comes out of it, you have certain value added to it. And this is, you could do it ad infinitum. You could repeat it across multiple machines till it gets out of the factory, and then essentially you have like a output per unit of time, like how many machines or how many parts I produce per unit of time. Now this is very easy to do this because every machine is machine, it does a set job and then it just passes on to another person, right? But software is not like that. Software is not that well defined. Software is not that predictable. Then what happens in case of software, right? Software work, and what do we know about software work so far, right? We know that software work is mostly invisible. We call it knowledge work because work is hiding in invisible queues. Okay, sometimes it's a backlog, sometimes it's an email, sometimes it's a Slack message, sometimes it's a Jira comment, right? Knowledge work is constant discovery because every day you're discovering something new about the feature you need to work on or the feature that you're already working on. Knowledge work is often unpredictable because no two people can deliver the same piece of work in the same duration. High degree of variability, skill sets vary, same task, different time to complete for two different people. And most important point is the value added time in knowledge work is very difficult to quantify. So the point is, let's say that you're moving a ticket or moving a task from say from your backlog to engineering, say development, right? Is the entire time the ticket spends in engineering a value add time, or is it just waiting time, or is it block time? So how do you quantify, this was the exact duration that it actually added value to me? And that's very difficult to do. And that's what we're going to see, is there a way we can do that? Is there a way we can quantify this to get to that flow state?